algunos de vosotros por ejemplo, habéis tenido el placer de leer o conocer de alguna manera de segunda mano el trabajo del doctor O'Dowd. Creo que puedo decir con certeza que debería ser una de las personas más citadas en lo que es el campo de investigación de telecollaboration. Poner su nombre y sale no sé cuántas citaciones de sus trabajos que él lleva más que 2 décadas, ¿no? En este campo. Bueno, ya les empezaba en 2000, principios de 2000, era uno de los primeros, era y es pionero en lo que es la investigación de telecollaboration, de usar la comunicación mediada por ordenador, computer mediated communication, para el aprendizaje de lenguas y sobre todo muy conocido en el campo de las competencias interculturales. Y yo creo que con esta presentación le doy bienvenido y muchas gracias por venir. Ha venido en tren esta mañana, un viaje largo desde León y ya tiene muchos cafés.
Sí, 5. Ya llevo 5 o 6. So I'm going to be very nervous. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming. So, as Melinda explained, I'm going to speak to you mostly, I think, in English, right? But the presentation has been prepared for me in Spanish, all right? This is the first time I am ever going to do this. I'm going to speak to you in English, but kind of refer to things in Spanish. I don't know how that works. That with the coffee might mix my brain up a little bit, but we'll see what happens, okay? Thank you very much to Melinda and all the great people for inviting me to come here today. A long time ago, in 1997, I came to Spain for the first time in my life to work in a place called Manresa. How many people here know Manresa or have been to Manresa? Are you from Manresa, maybe? No, but you know it anyway, right? And somebody from Manresa here? Yeah. Lucky lady, yeah. And this was literally my first experience of Spain. Okay, even more than ever, you have to do this now, right? Okay, good. So this is my first experience of Spain, and I literally came in university I had studied French and German, so I had no Spanish. So I arrived literally with my Spanish phrase book to Manresa, which is a very Catalan-speaking place.
Not in Spain.
Not in Spain, well, okay. And I literally went around going, buenos dias, and bon dia, and bon dia, what's that? Bon dia doesn't come in my Spanish phrase book. I literally went like that. Okay. So obviously a lot of time has passed since then, and for the past number of years I've been working at the University of León, and in the University of León I teach foreign languages, but I also work in international relations, okay, where we try to get people to study abroad, okay. I see today we have students, right? Undergraduate students, young students. Have any of you been abroad yet? Have you done Erasmus or anything like Erasmus? Where have you been?
I was in Helsinki.
In Helsinki?
Last winter.
Very good. Okay. And the rest of you?
I was in London for a month and a half.
Okay. Very good. All right. What would you say are the benefits of doing Erasmus, doing these student mobility programs? What are the advantages?
I think you can meet lots of people from different countries, and also you need to speak English because it's the only way you can communicate with others. And also,
does it affect your attitudes in any way, in the way you see the world or anything?
Yes, at first I was a little bit shy of speaking English because Spanish people are not really good at it. And the other ones were
very relaxed, yeah.
And relaxed and very fluent. And at first I was shy, but then it became normal.
Well, I don't know what is the situation here, right? But I mean, obviously, one of the big things at universities at the moment is to try and get as many students to be mobile as possible, right? And I suppose if you have done it, you know why, right? And if you are working in this area, then you also know why. Not only does it help for foreign language competence, but it also helps you in your intercultural competences, your attitudes, your ability to work with people from other cultures. I mean, there are so many reasons why we want to send students abroad, all right? And in the European Union, there is this very dramatic call that by the year 2020, 20% of all students will have done a work placement or a study placement in another country. Okay? Now, the problem is that 2020 is how many? 5 years away? Yeah? And do you know what percentage of students in Europe have taken part in a mobility? Do you want to guess? 10. What do you think, girl from Sweden? What percentage of students in Europe have either studied abroad or done a work practice abroad? 15%, yeah? Okay. 4 to 5%. 4 to 5%. It's incredible, isn't it? You think of you walk around, you probably hear so many Erasmus students. You call them, all of Europe is moving. Yeah, it's not. It's only 4 or 5%. Here in your university, anybody know? And I don't have the answer to this, if you don't tell me. No idea?
This faculty was the highest.
Okay, and what was that? You don't know what percentage?
10 years ago, we sent out around 100, 120.
Students, but out of how many? Okay, but it was, okay. The problem, there are two things. There are two things here. First of all, of course, as you can imagine, mobility has been reduced in the past number of years, okay? The reasons that you can imagine, the economic crisis, okay? There's less funding from Europe now. Now they talk about Erasmus loans, okay? Préstamos, all right? That's a bad sign, isn't it, when they're talking about things like that, okay? So very little funding and people cannot afford to go and things like that, so it's falling, right? So that is one problem, okay? But if you look at it, if going abroad and having intercultural and international experiences are so important for everybody, all right? Not just language students, but for all students, all graduates, engineers, people in business studies, you know, everybody should have an international experience. Then the question is, ¿qué pasa con el 80% restante? So what happens to the other 80%? So imagine if we achieved 20% by 2020. Would that be okay? Because what you're saying is that, you know, these wonderful outcomes that we will have from mobility, okay, only 20% of our students will have them, okay? So the thing is, all right, what they're now saying is that what we should be trying to doing is that not only the students that are mobile should have international experiences, but also the ones that are not mobile, okay? Also the students that stay at home, okay, should have some kind of international experience at their university, okay? And the people of you that are teaching at universities, you will have heard the expression internationalization at home, right? And it's basically the idea of trying to give more an international activities and international presence on your campus, okay? Now, one way that you can do this, okay, one way you can do this, I believe, and Melinda believes too, I think, is telecollaboration, all right? Now, telecollaboration, Claudia, ¿te importaría leer esto, por favor? Yo no voy a leer las citas.
¿Qué es la telecolaboración? El compromiso de grupos de estudiantes en la interacción y colaboración intercultural online con clases de otros contextos culturales u otras ubicaciones geográficas bajo la supervisión de educadores y o facilitadores expertos.
Muy bien, gracias. Qué bien lees en español. So very, very simply, this is the idea of bringing classes of students in different countries into contact together over the internet, under the supervision and under the guidance of teachers, okay? There are many different names, okay, that you can call it, all right? And that's one of the problems with it, in fact, you know. It's been called intercambio virtual, COIL, which is collaborative online international learning, online intercultural exchange, e-tandem, e-twinning, e-pals. If you're in secondary schools, in high schools and primary schools, you've probably heard about e-twinning and e-pals. E-twinning are these networks that bring secondary school students to collaborate together over the internet. No? E-tandem was probably the first way that this happened at universities, where you had one student learning English, writing to a student in Ireland who was learning Spanish. Okay, we'll see that in a minute. Okay, and things like that. Okay, so there are many different ways to get it. Okay, but the idea is that you bring students together to collaborate together online, to do things together online, and it is under the support and with the help of the teacher that is guiding, supporting, and helping the students to learn from these experiences. Okay. All right. So there's just examples of different books with different ways of calling it. Online intercultural exchange, virtual connections, telecollaboration 2.0. There are so many different ways it can be referred to. And each of these have different nuances, no? Different connotations and different ways of doing things, but they all basically fit under that definition, I think. Okay, I'm going to show you now a few slides with a very, very basic exchange, just to give you the idea of how this works. Okay? This is an exchange between my students in León, who are studying Magisterio, Educación, and they are future primary school teachers. And they are working with students in the University of Central Missouri in the United States who are studying Spanish. Okay? And we have a platform where we can work together, communicate together, and share things. Right? What do they do? Well, they start off by doing very simple things by, for example, uploading photos of their their daily lives and stuff like that. And you get nice cultural learning points like this where, for example, an American girl puts up a photo of herself playing soccer, right, playing football, which in León, for example, doesn't happen very often that a girl plays football, for example, okay, and things like that. And so you can bring these things into class and they lead to discussions. Okay? The second thing is each of the teachers gives discussion questions on a weekly basis. Some of these discussions are in English, so the Americans and the Spanish write together in English about these topics, and some of the discussions are in Spanish, and the Americans and the Spanish write together in Spanish. Okay, so that everybody gets a chance to practice their foreign language in this way, and to read the mother tongue as well of the other people. We also get them to make short presentations and movies, very simple, basic ones. Some of them even make them with their mobile phones. Right, and upload them, maybe showing them the campus or explaining some of the Spaniards, for example, show them how to make a tortilla and things like that. Very simple but practical things. When it comes to, they can also, on this platform, make vlogs, where here there's the Spanish, for example, are explaining what Semana Santa is in León. Okay? And of course, the Americans see the papones, as they call them in León, and they think, oh, this is Ku Klux Klan and all of this type of thing, right? And another thing that we do, because like I said, my group are in education, we watch clips from films. Anybody recognize this film? Yeah. Even the young people recognize this film. Do you? What's it called? En español, ¿cómo se llama? ¿Sabéis? El Club Muertos. Okay, and so we watch these clips together, and then the teachers leave questions, and we discuss them together. Okay, so that's a very, very basic exchange. Okay, these are the type of, this is not very innovative or anything like that. This is a basic, simple exchange with weekly tasks that then each of us, the teachers, we work this into our classes, and we bring it. We have our computer in the class, just like here. And we say, look what the American wrote this week, and now why did you write that, and what mistakes happened here, and stuff like that. Okay, so that's how that works. Reactions of two students. Mi compañera aquí de Suecia, ¿puedes leer la de? Finlandia, ¿por qué digo yo Suecia? Perdón.
Estudiante del mundo. Las opiniones compartidas estos meses nos han dado una visión muy diferente de los Estados Unidos, a los que habíamos idealizado, y desde entonces hemos tomado nota de que no son tan diferentes a nuestros países y de que las películas americanas nos han engañado respecto a la realidad. Lo más importante que he aprendido en este intercambio ha sido el no juzgar a una sociedad hasta haber hablado con alguno de sus ciudadanos.
Muy bien. ¿Y el chico ese, si no te importa el segundo?
Realmente he disfrutado reunirme con gente nueva y hablar con ellos. Creo que ha sido una buena experiencia. También creo que aprender inglés con este intercambio online es divertido para gente a quien no le atrae la gramática inglesa. Y es un modo alternativo de aprender inglés.
So, this final quotation here, I get this a lot. This is from students who all their lives have gone through the Spanish education system, where English is grammar, grammar, and grammar. Okay? And then they come to university, and then they don't know how to talk. They don't even realize that communication and English should go together. They have no concept of, that you learn languages in order to communicate. Right? And this, by putting them into a project like this, they realize that first of all, they are able to talk to human beings using English, yeah? And that you can learn English through practicing and communicating. Right? And I think the first comment kind of shows up this idea that by talking to human beings in America or wherever they are, you begin to move away from stereotypes, or at least to become aware of the stereotypes that you have, no? And especially in the case of America. All right? Okay, now, so this is, like I said, this was just a simple example of an online exchange. But I'm going to show you 4 different, shall we say, models of how this is put into practice, okay? And I think each of them has their strong points and their weak points. You'll have to watch them now and see them and say, okay, I wouldn't like this one, or I would like this one if you're a teacher or a student. Put yourself maybe in the position of a student. Would you like to take part in this type of exchange or not, okay? The first one is e-tandem, okay? An e-tandem, shall I say, is the most traditional one, okay? And this is where 2 native speakers in 2 different countries are brought together, okay? So if I am teaching English in Spain, I will find a class in America or in Ireland that are learning Spanish, and we will match our students one-on-one. Yeah? And each week, our students will have to write to each other, some parts in English, some parts in Spanish, and correct each other as well. The idea of e-tandem is like a tandem bike that you help each other, right? So the students have to read the messages that the others send to them and correct them as well, okay? So el papel del profesor es limitado, so the teacher has a limited role in this, right? This is very much the student assumes the responsibility. And normally in projects like this, students will be expected to hand in a portfolio at the end of the course, saying this is what we wrote, this is what I learned, etc., etc. Here's an example. This is from an American girl, right? And she's writing to her partner in León, right? She goes, "Hey, Pablo, it was great to receive your letter. I was so happy to see you responded to my questions. Thank you. Your responses were very informative and definitely showed me that family life in Spain was not all I'd expected it to be. I was surprised, for example, that your family is not religious. I assume that most families in Spain are, and I'm sure you have many assumptions about life in America as well. Your English is very good. There are only a few suggestions that I have to correct it. Some of your sentences are too long and would make more sense if you separated them into 2. So you see what is happening here? She starts off, she gives feedback on his message, and then she corrects his English. Okay, saying, your English is very good, but you could do this, and things like that, okay? Now, that's the first half of our message. Now she goes on, and she goes, ahora me toca a mí en español. Las fiestas de Ciudad de Nueva York son muy locas y emocionantes. Okay, right? And so you can imagine Pablo will get this message, he will sit down, and he will answer, and he will start off, gracias por tu mensaje, Elena. Escribes muy bien en español, pero... And then she will correct some of her mistakes. Okay? So that is the concept of e-tandem. Okay? And people have been doing this at universities around Europe since I discovered the internet. There was in 1996, 1997, this has been going. And it is still today, if you go to any of the big the international computer-assisted language learning conferences today, this is still being done a lot by lots of different people. So even though it is the first, it hasn't gone out of fashion, shall we say. Yeah? Okay? And this is, in fact, a more modern version of it. This is a photo that somebody shared with me between Georgetown, the University of Georgetown, and la Universidad Autónoma de México, and Universidad Estadual Paulista in Brazil, okay? And here you have each student talking with their tandem partner in this beautiful lab, right? Do you have a lab like this? Ojalá, okay?
We don't
Right.
even have classrooms.
Okay, and so the tandems are taking place not only by written but by speaking as well. Okay, and they would have maybe 20 minutes talking together in Spanish, 20 minutes talking together in English, or in Portuguese and in Spanish. In this case, whatever. Okay. So the second one. At the beginning of the 2000s, right, of the new millennium, there was a kind of a tendency in foreign language teaching to start looking more at the cultural side of these exchanges. Okay? We saw with the e-tandems that they were very much focused on language and correcting your language, right? But in the beginning of the 2000s, there was the cultural turn, no, with Claire Cramsh and Michael Byram and these people writing. And one of the things that came out of it was the Cultura project, right? The Cultura project was developed by people in MIT, okay, in the United States, and in people in France, in Lyon, I think it was Lyon, yeah, University of Lyon. And this is how it works, okay? First of all, so we're going to take the example again of Spain and America, all right? 2 classes, and each class has to complete an online questionnaire like the one you see in front of you. And it says, instructions. What other words do you associate with the following? For each word, write 2 or 3 free associations. So, a student sitting in America sees the word religion and has to write down 2 or 3 key words that jump to mind when they hear religion. Okay? What do you think of when you hear the word God? Homosexual marriages. Bullfighting, claro. Spain, Hispanic, USA. Okay? Or, the role of religion in school should be, finish the sentence. Okay? So the Americans are doing this questionnaire in English, and the Spanish people in León are doing the same questionnaire, but they are answering in Spanish. Okay? And en vez de poner religion, God, homosexual marriage, pone religión, Dios, etcétera, etcétera. Y contestan en español en León. Después, se juntan todas las respuestas americanas y todas las respuestas españolas, en este caso, al tema United States. And what does the teacher do? The teacher prints this, brings it into class, and the students get together and go, okay, what do we see happening here? United States. Pues echad un vistazo. ¿Qué os salta a la vista? United States. ¿Cómo reaccionan los españoles? Como basura, Obama. Y los americanos, pues, patriotism, freedom, 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 freedom. Mucha autocrítica ahí. Bueno, so you can see what happens, no? So in the 2 classes, the Spanish students with their teacher, and in America with their teacher, they are sitting analyzing them. They have a discussion. The teacher might on board say, well, for the keyword in Spain, in Princeton University, they use the word culture 7 times, food 6 times, history 6 times. Whereas in Spain, we use the word fiesta, food, corruption, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Okay? And then, what do you think happens next? ¿Qué hacemos ahora? Lo hemos analizado, ¿qué hacemos? What happens? What would be the logical thing to do next? ¿Preguntas a quién? A los otros, muy bien. Hecho. Les mandas a foros, you send them to discussion forums, and go, bueno, la mayoría de las palabras usadas para describir los Estados Unidos son fast food, Obama y patriotism. ¿Les sorprenden las respuestas? And you sit back and you watch the Americans react, okay? ¿Qué dice la chica de Princeton? Esta chica aquí, ¿me puedes leer esto?
Hola, estoy particularmente interesado en el tema de comida rápida. El pasado verano he podido darme cuenta de la cantidad de cadenas de comida rápida existentes en España, tales como Burger King y McDonald's. Desde mi experiencia con amigos he oído a estudiantes que toman este tipo de comida con más frecuencia que los ciudadanos estadounidenses. Para mí es interesante ver cuánta gente relaciona comida rápida o comida basura con los Estados Unidos.
So this is the American going, oye, es que vosotros también coméis de lo lindo de esto, ¿no? O sea, estudiante 2 de España, ¿qué dice? ¿Cómo contestan?
Por una parte, creo que esto es porque tu país es muy grande, pero por otro lado, puede ser que los gustos son de este tipo de comida. Esta es una de las razones más importantes de que en los Estados Unidos más del 50% de la población padezca obesidad. Y este es realmente un problema muy importante de salud. ¿Qué opinas?
Oye, ¿qué opinas? O sea, por eso estáis tan gordos todos. No, but this is, what you see is a very polite, indirect way of saying, is it, you know, all Americans are fat, or a lot of Americans are fat, and it's because you eat so much fast food. Isn't that right? You know? But you see the ¿qué opinas? This is, it's being polite, but at the same time it's justify yourself, ¿no? Justify yourself. Pero después viene esto. Esta chica aquí otra vez, si no te importa.
Creo que quizás el factor más importante que contribuye al problema nacional de la obesidad y a la proliferación de comida rápida es el alto coste de la comida sana, que podría no ser inmediatamente aparente. La reputación de prosperidad de Estados Unidos podría ocultar a los cientos de millones de ciudadanos que no pueden adquirir alimentos frescos y verduras. Para muchos la comida rápida es la única opción viable y un factor significativo de los problemas nacionales de salud.
So, at the end, my students in León, who were saying to the Americans, you eat too much rubbish and you're all fat, they have now learned that there's a link, a clear link here between eating fast food and poverty. Okay? So you see the learning here. You see this is the cultural bit of this, okay? And there is so many, if you can sensitize your students and get them to ask the right questions, no? And then to learn from these things, there's so many things students can learn from these exchanges. But the teacher has to be watching the forums, and when you see something like this happening, copy it, print it, bring it into class, sit down and read it with your students, okay? So, well, e-tandem, the first example you saw was students working on their own outside of class. These kind of models, they need that it's a blended approach, okay, from blended learning. Something happens online, but then you bring it into the class and you analyze it in the class with your students, okay? And that's why these things can be very powerful. They can have great learning potential, but it requires a lot of work on the part of the teacher to read all the forums, to identify interesting points, no, rich points as they call them, right? Rich points, and to bring them into class to discuss them with your students. Okay. So that's the second one, second model. There are two kind of more new models, right, that are becoming popular. Okay, and these are quite different. The first one is called Solaya. Solaya, I suppose, isn't really a model, but it's basically an organization that organizes communication between the United States, Europe, and the Muslim world, okay? The Arab and Muslim world, okay? And this is what it looks like. Basically, what you have is 8 students or 10 students are brought into a room, a virtual room, with their video camera. I'm sorry, this picture is very blurry. Okay. Two of these people are what they call facilitators. Facilitators, I suppose, like teachers, cultural experts. Okay, and these cultural experts will ask questions and lead the students to talking about issues that affect the Arab world and America, okay, and Europe, things that are every day becoming more and more important to us, no? And you can see that the students can hear each other, but there is also a text chat where they can write things as well. Right? So, Okay, so they meet online. Cada grupo tiene participantes de universidades de todo el mundo. De todo el mundo, they say, but basically this is America with the Arab-speaking world, okay? The Arab and Muslim world at the moment, okay? They start off with general discussions, okay, and then they get into more serious topics. But Celaya also offers a whole curriculum. So what they do is they go to universities and they say, your students can take part in this project, and we give them how many ECTS credits or credits for their work, for participating in it. Okay? Okay. So that's basically how Celaya works. In a way, it's a way of sort of outsourcing a little bit the intercultural learning, right? Because they have facilitators. You as a teacher, you don't participate in this, okay? They have their own facilitators who lead the conversations and try to solve the intercultural breakdowns that happen. Okay? And one other one that I wanted to show you is the one that I'm trying to adapt now in León, okay? Which is called the sharing perspectives. Okay? How many people in this room have heard of something called MOOCs? MOOCs. What are MOOCs? Very simply. ¿Alguien me lo puede explicar básicamente qué es un MOOC? ¿Qué es?
It's an open online course.
Yeah.
And basically, our courses open means that are for free and are for everybody. I mean, you don't need to have any background before to be able to take these courses. You can pay for a certificate if you want in some cases, but they are open and free. Massive because they can, I mean, for example, more than 1,000 students can enroll if they want. Maybe 100,000, I mean, it's massive.
Yeah.
And online, because they are online. That's
Okay,
it.
very good,
So,
very good. How do the courses work? How do they transmit information normally?
there are two different kinds of MOOCs, CMOOCs and XMOOCs. CMOOCs are based on social collaboration, and XMOOCs are based on the teacher-centered, so they leave their videos, and the students can study themselves. No, it's like they can more or less organize their own learning, and the CMOOCs are based on peer-to-peer collaboration.
Very good.
So the learning is built between peers.
Very good. This is kind of inspired by the idea of MOOCs, okay? The idea of sharing perspectives is that, for example, there's a topic, the socio-cultural crisis. Huh? And what happens here is that around Europe, maybe there are 4 or 5 different universities that are all teaching the same topic. Okay? Maybe in their politics faculty or in their economics faculty or something like that. And all of the participating teachers are in charge of making one video lecture. Okay? Like you see these guys here, they are the video lectures. And each week, the students from all these different universities, they log on, watch the video, and then they go to forums where they discuss with a facilitator the video that they have seen. Okay? And I'll put them all down here to save time. Okay? So the participating universities create a curriculum together. Okay? And then they put on these videos online. Okay? And then after each class, students, maybe one student from Helsinki, one from Barcelona, one from Dublin, they all come into groups and discuss that video together. Right? And then finally, at the end of the course, they are put together in groups again to do project work, related to the topic. Okay, and then that's how they get their marks. Right? Now, what I've tried to experiment a little bit with this, right? And I'm going to show you very quickly a very simple, basic example of how this can work. Right? The course, I'm teaching a course in foreign language education for master's students, students who are studying to become secondary school teachers of English, no? And they have to do a course which is called Innovación en la enseñanza, algo así. And so what we have done is, I'm working with teachers who are in Sweden, Israel, in Tel Aviv, in Korea, and in Canada. And each week, one of us is in charge of doing a topic that we know a lot about. All right? So for the first week of the class, our students worked on the flipped classroom. This week they're doing telecollaboration, right, with me. The third one they're doing fandom, and the fourth one they're doing the role of social presence and online teaching and things like that. And what happens? The students from all these different classes, they go into this. They have a video lecture that we have recorded, right, as you can see. Yeah, there you go, so you can hear me again. And then they are going to the different discussion groups. And there you have students from Tel Aviv, from Sweden, from León, from Korea, all talking together about the topic. And we leave them, as you can see, questions, no? And links to text to read and questions to use in there. So this is kind of a way of linking telecollaboration to content. Okay, if you have a content that you have to give, you provide the content, but then the discussion and collaboration and learning about that content takes place online, collaborating with other students. Okay? All right, so that's that. The last thing I want to show you today, bring you back to it here. Now, the last thing I want to show you is, I don't know what happens in Barcelona, but for León, for many, many years, when students want to go on Erasmus, okay, normally they apply for Erasmus, they are given their destination, then they go to their academic coordinator in León, and he says, okay, when you are in, what city were you in again? Helsinki. When you're in Helsinki, I want you to study this subject, and this subject, okay? And this is what happens in León, anyway. Okay, and then basically you go, okay, and that's your preparation for Erasmus. Okay, now maybe in the UAB you're much more prepared, and you give your students training and what they should do and what should expect. Did they give you lots of training before you went abroad? No. Did you have any contact to the actual university in Helsinki before you went?
Yes, because I contacted them, but like on my own, because I.
Okay. But imagine if in the 2 or 3 months before you went there, right, you were put into contact with a student in Helsinki. Maybe a student in Helsinki who was planning on going to Spain. And you were given, I'm going to jump through it, you were given tasks that you had to talk about together. How big are your two countries? What are the opening times of shops? Simple, basic things. How much does a coffee cost in Helsinki? How much does a coffee? Very simple things at the beginning, but then as the project goes on, you can make it more complex and make it more, more intercultural, right? But the idea of simply putting students into contact together before they go on Erasmus. So you get to practice your language skills a little bit, and you also get to find out about the country you're going to by talking to somebody, a student that lives there. All right? So that's what we're trying to do in León. Okay? Sorry, go back. Okay, we call it VIPs. Okay? But what we say is, if students want to go on Erasmus, they can participate in this program. Okay? And we will put them into, if they say, I want to go and study in England, well, we try to find in England a student that wants to come and study in Spain. The perfect thing would be a student in León who wants to go to Sheffield, and Sheffield who wants to come to León. Okay, to match them like that, but it's not always possible. And we give them these different tasks that they have to do together. Okay? And at the end, if they have done this properly, and if they submit their portfolio showing what they have done and that they have in contact, we give them an extra, in León there's a lot of competition for Erasmus. So we give them 0.5 extra in their application for Erasmus, if they do this. Okay? We've only been doing it for 2 years and with a small amount of students, but to be honest, I think this is obvious. I think, how can we, with so much internet, so much online communication, how can we send students abroad without them having contact, first of all, with somebody in that country? I think it's common sense. But of course, organizing it takes time. Okay? But I bet you if we could come up with a tool where students could do that, could log on and find partners in the other country and do things like that, we could, it could be very easily done. Okay. So I'm going to stop here. I'm running out of time and energy as well. My coffee is running out. So these are basically the different ways that telecollaboration is happening, right? But I'd just like to ask you your opinion for a couple of minutes. Of all of these different types of exchanges, if you're a student, what type of exchange do you think would be most useful for you or most interesting? And if you're teachers, which type would you like to use in your classes? Okay? Okay, so over to you. Ideas? Comments? Podéis participar en inglés, español, hasta en catalán si habláis despacio y con subtítulos. So tell us a little bit, what was your experience?
Well, we have like different videos with Melinda and videos that we need to watch, and then like some Padlets or like platforms to discuss the content. And I think it's interesting, but maybe we don't value like the thing that we are participating like from Spain and also from the States, and like we don't really, I don't know, like compare our answers maybe, that maybe we think in one way and they think in another way.
And there's no real communication?
No, yes, we have communication, but I don't know if the others think the same, but I don't like read the comments of the ones that are in the States and compare their ideas with ours.
This is a common problem, that especially this generation, they are so used to posting and writing online that they do it very easily. The writing and my students are brilliant for putting up beautiful pictures of themselves, all these selfies and things like that, and they're very cool. But like you said, very often there's not much reflection on what the other people have said. They don't think about what the other people have written, and they don't compare it to their own. And that's the teacher's job, to bring it into class, to say, or to give you tasks to say, okay, now go home, read 3 or 4 of the American Posts and tell me what things that you notice about it or what's different about them and things like that. Because I'm afraid this is the Facebook generation. Very easy to upload, to write, and to post, but it's a superficial type of communication, right? And we want the learning to be more deeper. And that's the problem. Just because these people are digital natives doesn't mean that they are good intercultural communicators. There's a big difference.
But on the other hand, we had another activity that we were in contact with Americans and via Skype or other platforms, and then we needed to discuss about specific topics, and I think it was a really good idea. Although we only had like one student from there or 2 in the group, so mostly we were Spanish, but there we could like discuss about it.
And it was useful.
Yes.
Was the logistics of the class. Yeah. This class was very, very small this year.
That's another thing I can mention, of course, the logistical problems.
But they are not interested in mixing with foreigners, huh?
Yes, we are. Yes. We are mixing with the Erasmus students.
Because I force you to?
No.
We are all hosting one.
Yes. We have one Erasmus student in our groups for your present.
But that was compulsory.
No.
What about the rest of you? What models do you think would work better or not so well for you? This lady over here, for example? Yeah?
I personally think that the sharing, la idea de compartir, colaboración basada en compartir, para mí sería más productivo, pero también pienso que I also think, también pienso que el papel del profesor o profesora, el docente, es muy importante para lo que decís vosotros, para conseguir realmente un aprendizaje que no sea muy superficial. Creo que el diseño de la tarea es súper importante. El tipo de tarea, tarea o objetivo que podría ser. Creo que poner énfasis en algo que sea creación de algo entre los dos grupos puede ser conllevar más aprendizaje y también pensando en cómo se puede facilitar el aprendizaje cultural de compartir. No sé, es que no lo tengo en mente exactamente cómo hay que, pero un aprendizaje.
No, pero ha estado en el clavo. Está claro que las tareas que tienes que desarrollar, eso es la clave para el éxito de esto. Hay tareas que funcionan mejor y otras que funcionan peor. Si os interesa saber más, tenemos una plataforma que se llama unicollaboration.eu, unicollaboration.eu. Y esto es una plataforma que hemos hecho Melinda y yo y mucha más gente para profesores de universidad que quieren montar este tipo de proyecto. Ahí tienes, básicamente. Para buscar socios, tienes partners. Si quieres buscar un socio en Estados Unidos o en Alemania o donde sea, te metes ahí. Y ahí la gente cuelga. Yo soy profesor de inglés en España y estoy buscando un socio no sé dónde. Pues lo cuelgas ahí. Pero también tenemos tareas, una base de datos de tareas, donde tienes a lo mejor 100 o 100 y algo tareas que gente ha utilizado en estos intercambios. Ahí puedes leerlos y decir, esto no me gusta, este más y tal. Y todo esto es gratis y sin darse de alta ni nada. Ahí puedes ver muchos ejemplos. Hay también un portafolio que Melinda invirtió muchísimo tiempo haciendo con sus compañeros, también para evaluar a los estudiantes. Y hay también un sitio que se llama Training, donde tienes vídeos de personas y textos para cómo montar y llevar a cabo proyectos de este tipo. Entonces ahí tienes de todo, si os interesa saber más sobre esto. ¿Vale? Os podéis dar la alta también, es gratis, y así podéis colgar eso, busca de socios y todo ese tipo de cosas. ¿Qué más? ¿Ideas? ¿Preguntas? Yes, that was the original idea. Yeah, but what eTwinning does is eTwinning is like this for secondary school and primary school. But eTwinning also has a lot of tools, communication tools that your students can use. We think there are so many tools already there, Skype, email, and a million more. Then it's a waste of time making our own ones. Okay, so we have everything there except tools, basically. Yeah. Which project now? With the videos? No, they're studying an MA in education, in secondary education. So there was the content, which was, teaching through English. Okay, I've been told to stop. Thank you very much for listening and coming this afternoon. Thank you, it was a pleasure. Thank you.